Well, top of the morning to you guys. So I'm in a situation where I just can't get to sleep, and I've been up since about 3 a.m. So I figured, let's talk about wine. Why not? My topic today is going to be old world versus new world wine, and what the fuck's the difference between them. And so, old world wine actually originally referred to something called the Fertile Crescent, and that was in the Middle East, and that's countries such as Lebanon, Israel, Syria, Jordan, and they were the original cultivators of grapes and wine to begin with. Except it doesn't sound as sexy, so let's move on to Europe and consider Old World wines in general as a European kind of thing. Greece, Italy, Portugal, Spain, France, you name it. And so, how about New World wine? Australia, basically any place outside of Europe and the Middle East. When I say old world versus new world, I'm not talking about the age of the vines. Okay, it's a very, very, very different concept. Because believe it or not, Australia has some of the oldest grapevines in the world. We weren't affected with many of the diseases that affected a lot of Europe, which destroyed much of their older vines. We haven't had any major war in Australia that's torn it to shreds, ripped through our vineyards, and so we actually have the pedigree to show that we have older vines here that outdate most of France or Italy even. But the concept of New World winemaking is sort of it's less strict. Let's put it that way. In Italy, I know for a fact if I'm making a Chianti, I have to make it out of Sangiovese. Okay, I can't play around with that. My winemaking techniques have to be old school. Okay, my hands are pretty much tied. If I'm in Burgundy, I have to make Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. All right, there's actual rules and regulations set by the government to protect the integrity of this wine. Whereas in Australia, we can have the capacity to blend what we want, grow it where we want. I could go and grab Shiraz vines and a whole bunch of soil and place them in the middle of a suburban block in the city and start growing Shiraz there and call it City Block Shiraz and start selling that tomorrow. There's no rules and regulations about it. So old world, very strict in its traditions, and you can't exactly play around with what you're doing. New world, you have a playground for new winemakers to grow what they want, blend what they want, and just in general experiment and try to progress the wine industry. I'm not saying old world is bad. They know what they're doing. They're doing it well. And new world, it's hit and miss severely, severely. Okay, but at least it's progressing. In 100 years from now, we might end up having wine blends we didn't even know existed, and that's thanks to the progression of New World wine. And that might even become the status quo. But at the moment, you have to understand what you appreciate, and if you appreciate wines that have nuance, complexity, and elegance, and have the capacity to age for a very long time, old world's where you're going. New world is everything's meant to be drunk within 5 years of release of the date, unless they're specifically designing it to be otherwise. But you have that choice to make. Anyway, that's the difference between old world and new world wine. Hope you like that information. Like, share, and subscribe.